Hey, folks, welcome back to Chris Wyatt Africa and Rugby Ascended. This is Chris coming to you live from Central Pennsylvania. My special guest today is Stephen Brett, who's from New Zealand. He'll be the second Kiwi ever to appear on my channel. Of course, the other was this Oak, who is a PhD and talks about security in Africa. Our topic's going to be slightly different today. We're not really going to talk about Africa, but we are going to talk about rugby. Stephen, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Chris. Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure. Hey, listen, I was down there in Atlanta last week. What a brilliant display against the Guillotinis. That was unbelievable. And I saw a lot of you out there on the pitch before the game. You saw a lot of me. And I got to say this, you have a great connection, at least it appears to me, with the players on that team. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, it's obviously something that I pride myself on as a coach. I like just trying to keep the players to interact with me as much as possible, because that's how I get their confidence, and that's how I feel I can prove to them that I can actually do what I can teach them, what I know in my experience and stuff, and just show them how to play the game. And having those type of players that we've got now, I've got a good group of boys that really just want to listen and learn, and it's good for this franchise.
Well, speaking of those good group of boys, I interviewed Adrian Casey after the game and then again last week offline. And he spoke quite glowingly of you as a coach. And he said that he was very excited when you were coming, when he knew you were going to be at Atlanta and he signed with Atlanta. He said he was very excited about that. He kind of gave me the impression he looks to you as a mentor.
Yeah, Adrian's like a young up and coming teen, and obviously with myself playing teen when I was playing rugby, I guess he just sees me as, he was a big fan of the Blues himself, you see, and obviously with me playing with the Blues, he used to watch them. And the first time he arrived, he's like, I'm a big fan of yours. He used to love to watch you play rugby and stuff like that. But for me, it's more like I'm trying to pass on all my experiences that I learned as a teen, and just giving him confidence. In every game that he's been playing at 10, he's just getting better and better and better, and now he sort of knows his roles and knows what he has to do. I just let him go, and if he has any questions to ask, I answer them.
Well, you have quite a bit of experience as a professional rugby player. For those who are not familiar with your resume, let's just go through it. At provincial level, you played for Canterbury, 44 appearances there, but then you were in Super Rugby with the Crusaders. Oh, wow. The crushing team out there. That was, if you're a Super Rugby fan, you're nervous when the Crusaders come to town, to say the least. But you're with them for 3 seasons, 39 appearances. With the Blues, you had 31 appearances. That's a lot of Super Rugby time. But as I recall, I think you broke your collarbone against the Cheetahs back in 2008 and put you out of action for a little bit.
I think it was against the Lions, actually.
Oh, against the Lions.
Yep, it was against the Lions at Jade Stadium at the time, and went into attack and got tackled by a big second row and landed on my shoulder awkwardly, and popped out my collarbone, which wasn't good at the time, because I was actually playing some really good rugby and I was really enjoying myself. And I felt that year was my year to give it a really good crack and get into the All Black squad. And then I had that injury and came back from that and just didn't have all my confidence when I'd finished playing, when I wasn't injured, to when I came back, and just sort of ruined a little bit of my rugby confidence.
Well, that's the point I was trying to get to very quickly, is that you were having quite an amazing season that year. It was a really tough break. I mean, we just saw for South Africa, as a Springbok fan, Dwayne Vermeulen is out for surgery on his ankle. This is horrible for Springboks fans. We're really disappointed. The British and Irish Lions tour coming up, and then with Georgia coming to town, that's going to be tough. So I can imagine that's got to be a heartbreak when you're having a great season like that. That must have been tough on you. But you came back. You tend to play with that. You got a lot of experience. You played in Japan. That's kind of nice thing you bring to this, I think, for Toyota Verblitz out there. Lots of time in France. Let's see. You play with Bayonne, Lyon, Narbonne, Clermont, and back with Narbonne. Why so much time in France? Did you just get good contracts up there? Did you like the pace, or they like you?
The plan was, after I finished up in Japan, the plan was to go back to New Zealand and have another crack at it. At the time, I was like, I don't really want to go back. So I decided to go. I just wanted to change in life. So that's why I was single at the time. And I'm like, well, let's go over to Europe, have a bit of fun over in Europe, a couple of years, come back to New Zealand and have a crack again. And I haven't left since 9 years. I've been in France 9 years now. So it was definitely an interesting time in France. I definitely enjoyed my time there, obviously the big cities and stuff like that. But I definitely, by the time I got to finish, I definitely found a love of rugby, just the way the coaching system was. Like my last year at Narbonne, I think we went through like 5 coaches. So it was definitely really tough. And I had a really bad knee at the time, and I couldn't do much with the kids when I'd finished playing rugby. So I was like, this is the time to retire. So I ended up retiring, and then I was lucky enough my coach at the time wanted me to become the video analysis and kicking coach. And then so I did that, and then I obviously got the gig in Colorado last year. Now I'm in Atlanta. So,
Well, I was going to ask you not to put you on the spot. So if I do put you in a spot, apologies. But with all that time in France, do you speak French?
I do. Yes, I'm fluent in French. Yeah,
Excellent.
it took me 3 years. Took me 3 years to get it, but obviously being there 9 years and having a French partner and stuff like that. Obviously, if I didn't
There you
speak
go.
French.
Well, there you go. Moi-même, j'ai appris le langue en Californie avant plus de 20 ans.
Ouais, d'accord. Parce qu'en fait, on a 3 joueurs dans cette équipe qui parlent français. Donc, moi, j'ai parlé français avec eux tout le temps.
That's awesome. Because I was going to ask you, that's the next question for rugby players that play on teams where there's a different language spoken. You always wonder, especially when they first arrive. I can imagine what it's like. Did you learn Japanese? You weren't there very long. I mean, that's a tough language. And what was it like? How did you do line out calls, and how do they coach when you're not speaking Japanese?
I was actually quite lucky because when I was at school, I did Japanese for 3 years. So I had a really good basis of Japanese before I went there. And obviously being single and having to going out with the Japanese boys, you pick up the language a lot faster. And the syllables in Japanese are pretty much, the syllables and vowels are exactly like Maori in New Zealand. So I picked up the language really quickly. So by the time my second to last year, I was speaking some good Japanese.
Wow, that's quite impressive. So you've got broken English that we call Kiwi English. You've got English, you've got French on your belt, you've got Maori, you've got Japanese on your belt. Anything else you speak? You're a polyglot.
No. That's it.
Well,
the language of rugby.
The language of rugby. There you go. That's quite a bit, though. So yeah, you alluded to something a moment ago. You started in Major League Rugby with the Raptors. I don't think a lot of people know that. They were the Glendale Raptors, then became the Colorado Raptors, and then they exited the league to focus on other things, rugby development. And you came down to Atlanta. What was your experience at Colorado like?
Yeah, I really enjoyed my time there. I was actually coaching with one of my best mates from high school, Peter Boulez. So he rang me up when I was in France, and while I was doing the video analysis, he was like, "Mate, I'm looking for a backs coach. Would you be keen to come over?" And obviously, I'd split up with my partner, so I had the decision with my kids and stuff like that. So she ended up letting me go, and so I ended up going over, and the time with them, the time with Peter Pass, the time with Luke Gross, Mark and stuff like that, Travis, all the staff that were there was a really good learning experience for me for my first time as a coach of a unit. But Pete made the transition for me into coaching really easy, and then obviously with the COVID hitting and stuff like that, we didn't really want to obviously finish, but obviously things they were as they were, and I obviously had to head back to France, and so I was sort of stuck after that, and I didn't have it. Obviously, Colorado were looking to go into other things because they pulled out the MLR, but I was always wanting to be a coach, and obviously this opportunity came up with Atlanta, and went through the job process with Scott, and I was fortunate enough to pick up the gig here.
Well, that's what I ask you about next. But before I ask you about your coaching style and how you like coaching, I do want to kind of just mention something. When you watch Scott Lawrence, he's kind of nonplussed. He's a really steady, quiet guy. And I saw that in warmups. I saw that coaching. He doesn't get overly excited. He's not like one of those NFL coaches yelling at his players and such. You could be forgiven if you didn't know who Scott Lawrence is, not knowing he was the coach from the side or from the stands. What's your approach like? Is it similar, or are you more animated with your players?
I'm a little bit more animated with my players. I like my players to feel comfortable and relaxed and stuff like that, so they know that they can come talk to me. And Scott's one of those coaches where he's very detailed in everything he does. That's why all the defense detail, the leadership of team detail, he's really on point. And that's, for me, it's a really good learning experience as a coach, just watching him how he does stuff. I'm learning a lot off what he does and how he coaches teams, and just like he's been in the coaching gig for a long time, and he's one of those guys that might be quiet on the sideline, but in behind scenes, things that people don't see, he's actually really detailed in everything he does.
Well, I have no doubt, and certainly when it comes to defense, that seems to be the case. He's very detailed. So you're listed as signing as the attacks coach for Rugby Atlanta, but The Rattlers have been a defensive juggernaut this season. That's been seemed to be where they're getting most of the attention. Does it kind of take some of the pressure off the attack with all this focus on defense, or is it still something you put a lot of energy into?
No, I definitely put a lot of energy into it. Obviously we want to be a team that can attack and defend, and obviously we spend a lot of time on our attack, and we spend more time on attack than our defense, to be honest. So it's just we're just having a few hiccups with just our ball retention, stuff like that. And, it's like for us, we know that if we do get the attack right, the attack's going to be really well. The system that we run is really good. The boys trust in the system, which is the main thing. Like if you don't have trust in the system, then that's the hardest thing. So the boys trust in it. It's just a matter of executing. But then again, like our defense it's defense that wins championships, So they can defend if teams don't score and we score that one try that we need to score, then happy days. So it's a bit of 50-50, but if we win games with defense or we win games with attack, I'm sure we're just happy with the win.
Yeah, just as long as there's a win. I was going to say that's probably the focus. You want to get that win. So I noticed that in your CV that you were a selection for the New Zealand Maori team. Did you ever actually play? I don't see any appearances listed. Did you get a chance to play with them?
Yeah, I definitely did. I played 2008, 2010. I played 2010 versus England, Tonga, and Ireland. Yeah, no, I've definitely. I think all up. I think I've had for the Māoris. I've had probably 5 or 6 caps.
Oh, that's pretty good. I just want to clarify that because it's hard to find that information out there, but good to hear. It's always fun to watch Maoris play. I think the Eagles played them a match last year, or the year before, maybe not last year, the year before. I think it was.
Right. Yep, they did. Yeah. Yep, they did. Yeah.
Yeah, we got slaughtered, but we got that going for us, right? Anyway, well, with Major League Rugby, with all the time guys are getting professional play, I think that the quality is going to improve. The Eagles are going to be a lot better. Gary Gold's selection looks like it's pretty promising. So let me ask you this about the season. 6 in a row. A little difficult start for the season for the Rattlers there. Lost a game to Old Glory DC, which this weekend did everything it could to give away a game. They're still making a lot of mistakes. You guys were up in Leesburg and in Virginia, lost that game. And some people might be scratching their heads. Does Rugby Atlanta have it? But it's just been a completely different situation since then. Now, you just had a really tough game there at the Gold Mine in New Orleans, 8-7. I mean, I don't have any fingernails left. I was sitting there biting my fingers on that one. That was, I'm like Matt Heaton's grandma, worried about what's going to happen to that game. But how you feeling about the rest of the season? You got a Titanic challenge this weekend against your key competitor for first place in the Eastern Conference, Rugby United, up there on Long Island this time. How you feeling about that game? And if you do well to get past that, how's it going to be after that?
Yeah, no, it's definitely going to be a tough match this week, especially with Rooney, the way they're playing. They're coming off a bye. But coming away from 6 wins in a row is, for me, I get the feeling of this team. I've been in winning championship sides with the Crusaders and stuff like that. I get that sensation of feeling that the cohesion and stuff of the players is really there at the moment, and they want to work for each other. Like you see the 2 minutes, the last 2 minutes against LA, the last 2 minutes against New Orleans. They're all fighting right to that last minute, and for me, that's a championship winning side, and it's just a matter of just continuing that and letting the boys be themselves. And I think we've got a really big thing going here. It's just we obviously, if we can get past this Rooney game this weekend and just continue on the road that we're on, to finishing off our skills during the week and just doing all the little extra things that teams that don't see the boys do. They do. This team's a really hard working team, and that's all credit to Scott by how he's led the boys and just demanding extra stuff from them. And I think that's for us, that's just coming out of the results in the weekends.
Well, Stephen Brett, it's a pleasure chatting with you today. And I have to say that the Rugby ATL has been very impressive. The boys that you're coaching are performing very well. They're doing a great job as well. So best of luck this weekend. I'll see you guys up there in Long Island. It's going to be a miserable drive for me because the game is another hour and a half further down the road than it normally is. But I'll be there. I'll see you on the pitch up there. And good luck. And good luck the rest of the season with Rugby ATL.
Thank you very much, Chris. Appreciate it.
It's my pleasure. Ladies and gentlemen, that's Stephen Brett from Rugby ATL.